Oh, okay. So we got the Superman trailer, finally. I mean, I know we've had the teaser for a couple months now, and that teaser was fucking great. I mean, you can go check out my video on my thoughts and theories regarding the film now, but I kind of want to sit down, just do an impromptu video talking about the official Superman trailer and why I feel like this film is going to be generational. Like, it's going to be a generational interpretation of Superman. I guess let's start with like the biggest controversial thing about this trailer, which is the fact that there's still a lot of people who aren't convinced on the look of the film. And to be fair, it's not like my personal favorite aesthetic. Like, I like the aesthetic. I mean, you can hear me wax poetic about it in that other video that I did. But there's something about the movements and the look that doesn't quite work for me. I still like the wide shots, the emphasis on blue and how bright and vibrant it is. Like, I think that's something that's largely been missing. And I also like it's a very like distinct look. It's very unique. I mean, it feels akin to what Gunn had previously done in Guardians 3 and even some of his work before that in the Suicide Squad. I mean, even down to just like how it's like this intense realism juxtaposed with these fantastical elements. It's very stylized. It's definitely the way that he wanted to go and shoot this film. And I think that, you know, there's something to be said about that it has a look, a distinguishable, recognizable look. And look, maybe the look isn't for you. That's fair. But I think the problem we're running into with a lot of these trailers is that we're seeing a lot of long takes, wide-angled long takes that are just like, and orbiting shots as well, that are just kind of like cut up for the sake of a trailer. And so I don't think you're necessarily getting the full effect of these shots as intended by James Gunn. I think you're getting it the best that you can in the context of a trailer, but I don't know. I mean, like, there's, would I like a little bit more contrast, maybe a bit more reds thrown in there? Like, yeah, but I'm not, like, look, I'm not the colorist. I'm not the DP. I'm not James Gunn. This isn't my vision. Just because I maybe would do something slightly different doesn't mean that it's inherently wrong. And I think the thing is like, when the images pop, they pop. Like, there are some truly striking images in this trailer, very quintessential Superman images in this trailer. And I think the other thing that I love about it is how locked in on perspective it is, especially because I think it's a film that's going to be about perspective, specifically about how the world perceives Superman, how he perceives the world, how like government officials perceive him. People like Lex Luthor obviously have this intense hatred for the, you know, newfound adoration that he's getting from the public. And I think having those really intense like close-ups of Lex, like locked in, super wide angle lens and just like the part where he's like shaking there and screaming. It's so good. It's so good. And so I think I could see a world where like I watch it in the context of the film and it's super effective. I mean, look, this movie needs to succeed. Obviously, James Gunn carefully considered the look of the movie, but you know, to Gunn's credit, he also has to make it feel like something he would make, like a James Gunn movie, because that's what you hire him to do. That's who he is. And so like I you know, we could talk about the look of this movie all day long. I feel like it's going to be the biggest point of contention for a lot of people. Like, even if the story is good and the emotions are powerful and all, I mean, all this stuff, I still think that this is going to be the thing that people kind of are debating until the next one. And you know what? That's fair. Like, you know, everyone has their own preferences on cinematography. I think some people think that they're like cinematography experts and they're like, oh, it's the guy who shot The Flash, so this movie's gonna suck. And it's like, okay, well, that's one project does not a cinematographer make. Like, you could look at Bill Pope, who shot the Raimi Spider-Man films, Spider-Man 2. I mean, he shot some MCU movies. Does that mean that he's washed? No, not at all. Fantastic cinematographer. He also worked on Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and the Suicide Squad. Like, there are good things that this guy has done, so let's not discredit him just because he worked on The Flash. And also, like, The Flash isn't the worst looking comic book film of all time, at least from a cinematography standpoint. The VFX, if you want to criticize anything, are the thing that holds that movie back, at least visually. Regardless, that doesn't matter. What really matters here is this trailer, I think, gives us a very clear look at the heart of the film, about like what this Superman story is going to be about. You know, the whole idea of like a world, like does kindness need to exist in a world devoid of it, right? Like, is there room for it? And I think right off the bat, I mean, you see Clark and as giving this interview with Lois, and he's very defensive of his actions. Like, he's not used to being, I guess, challenged on his virtuosity, which I think is a real, I know that's also kind of been a weirdly off-putting thing for people. Like, people are like, maybe you shouldn't have Superman being like defensive and stuff like this right out the gate, because that's kind of off-putting, and like it puts him in this, it gives him this superiority complex or whatever the fuck. I don't know. I think that it really paints Superman as being this hopelessly naive guy, this person who is such an optimist to the point where he can't fathom his own actions as being anything other than right? Like, he sees a scenario and it's like, well, I could either let these people die or I could save them and prevent the loss of life. And I mean, obviously, I think he takes the appropriate actions in that instance. But Lois, being, the dutiful journalist she is going to press him on that, which I think is really interesting, because he arrives into this world already, running amok with superheroes and stuff like that. But I think what distinguishes this from other cinematic universes like the MCU or like the previous DCEU and stuff like that is that superheroes already exist in this world, and Superman arrives to disrupt the status quo. And I think in a meta context, that could prove to be pretty interesting. You have Superman, the film, arriving in a landscape where the superhero is already established, specifically the superhero and its link to the government. I mean, we just saw Thunderbolts, like, a couple weeks ago. I was going to say a month ago, but a couple weeks ago. That film is very clearly about people, these heroes, or these anti-heroes, I guess, who have been tools for the government for so long, who are used to a world where superheroes are basically seen as soldiers, right? As weapons for the government. And so I think Superman, the movie, arrives at a point where it's time to change things. It's like, let's get back to what's heroic about these figures, what's aspirational, what causes us to look up and be optimistic, how someone like Superman does that. And it's pretty clear from the trailer that the government does not like what he's doing. He's kind of going in there like a cowboy, doing his own thing without, answers to no one. And I think the great thing about Superman is that you can challenge him, but you also can't challenge him. He creates an interesting dilemma for the powers that be. You have Rick Flag Sr. here, and he's obviously working with either Lex Luthor or Maxwell Lord in terms of establishing this government-sanctioned superhero team, the Justice League, which is where we get, Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, and I guess other people like Metamorpho. But at the same time, I don't know if Metamorpho was really part of that team. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, who knows. Anyways, the guys who have these white suits, these government approved suits, and are sent out to do missions and such like that. I mean, I like the idea of having this team operate as an extension of the U.S. government, as being the weapons that the defense company then, contracts out to the government and stuff like that. I think that's a really interesting spin on, a superhero team like this. And I think having that, where these people are operating at the whims of politicians or presidents in the names of agendas and arts, it's the Civil War thing, right? Where it's like they're not allowed to go out there and do stuff because it's morally good. It has to align with state interests or whatnot, and it puts people like Lex Luthor in more of a position of power because he's the one that sends these heroes out, or a Maxwell Lord. I'm not really sure who the heroes are employed by. I'm assuming maybe Lex Luthor, but he sends these guys out there to do the government's bidding and stuff like that. And so you see someone like Superman arrives here, who is operating with a moral compass, who is just doing things because of his empathy and because it's the right thing to do. You could see how that disrupts the status quo. And I think that's kind of beautiful. It really speaks to the fact that we need heroes like this who operate on their morals and their values, instead of people who are just out there doing stuff for the sake of agendas or pushing expansion or dominance. And it was like having a hero like this who has his own autonomy, and we understand his upbringing, right? Like his relationship with his mom and his dad, and how they raised him to be this good person, right? That's what makes Superman good, not his powers or his exceptional abilities or whatever. It's the values instilled in him that he then tries to take into a world that has largely rejected it, because we're willing to elect people who are morally questionable. We're willing to do things because we're scared in the name of defense and security, and we've forgotten our empathy along the way. And I think what this trailer really shows is that is the battle Superman is fighting throughout. This desire to instill a collective empathy back into people, to have people believe in helping one another. I mean, there's great shots in this where people are helping Superman get up off the ground. I mean, you've got the kid with the flag who is inspired by Superman to do something. I think what's great about this interpretation is that he truly is the Blue Boy Scout that we know him to be. He's a good person, and we don't get too many superheroes nowadays who are genuinely good people. I mean, there's always like the age of the anti-hero has really like kind of taken over, and we're more interested in these morally complicated individuals who've endured circumstances that have caused them to be that way. And I think there's a place for that. And that's definitely something that I like, because I think it creates heroes that are more real and relatable and such. But, there's something to be said about the Supermans. It's like we need to have an anchor, a moral like North Star that we can go to, or that we can point to and look as something to aspire to be. And look, at the same time, that's not saying that Clark is infallible, right? I think his virtuosity, his moral compass is sometimes his greatest weakness. He's almost too naive. He's too blind to the state of the world. And I think that's an obstacle he will have to overcome throughout the course of the film, and figure out how to operate in this world with that sense of kindness, how he's going to fit in. I don't think it's going to, amount to him joining any kind of government-sanctioned superhero team. That doesn't feel like the Superman way or the Clark Kent way. But I do think it may amount to him learning to work with others instead of just going it alone. Because ultimately, like that is the thing. You need collaboration in order to make the world a better place, in order to enact change. And I think right now, especially based on like the interview between him and Lois, it really feels like he is just kind of going it alone. Like he's doing objectively good things, but he's not necessarily thinking about the ramifications. He's not necessarily thinking about the system he's a part of. And like the film can critique the system, the film can critique like, hey, maybe we should change things, but he can't just be this, this rogue entity going out there willy-nilly. Like there needs to be some sort of thing in place so that he's I don't know, he's not just like unchained, right? And obviously that's going to be the paranoia that people like Rick Flag Sr. and whoever I think are dealing with. And then we've got Lex Luthor, man, who is just like, it's just quintessential Lex. He's just so fucking pity. He's like, I've got this Justice League. I am like this big Elon Musk-like figure, and yet all the attention is on Superman and not me. It's like, why don't I get the same thing when I am like responsible for helping to usher in this new superhero team and be the government contractor or whatever. And I think like just seeing him get mad and just like hate this guy solely because he resents the way people feel about him. They're like, why don't they feel this way about me? And it's just, that's quintessential Lex, that vindictive, just petty, attention-seeking narcissist who's like, obviously has, was rejected or whatever from a young age, and just has built this company and feels like it's owed to him. And he is incapable of looking inward to realize that the reason why no one respects him or adores him the way that they do Superman is because they kind of see him for what he is. And so I think that's going to be a lot of fun to see how that kind of like clashes with Superman and such. I mean, also just if we're talking about quintessential Superman things, I mean, the fact that his mom like brings him his boots, it's like, it's
I cleaned your boots. I'll go get them for you.
stuff like that is just like, he's just a guy, man. He's just a Midwestern dude who is like, has a very traditional value set, yet is like objectively a good person. And it's like, he's close with his parents. The speech that his dad's giving to him about choice, right? It's like, we have to choose to do the right thing, even if everything else is like opposing us. And, you know, if you're sent on a mission to do something objectively bad, like, it's your responsibility to choose not to do that thing. Like it's the classic Superman sort of thing. So seeing how like his relationship with his dad and how his dad's trying to like comfort him and stuff like that. Like I think that's really emotional. Like that's stuff that's going to hit hard. You know, a world that's largely rejecting him because of his old-fashioned sense of self. Like, and then also I love the parts where like Clark is just kind of like talking in a way like he makes the Walter Cronkite reference.
Let's do it, Cronkite.
To Lois, and it's like, okay, man, like you're like you're just such an old soul. And I mean, like and even the way that he's like,
Hey buddy, eyes up here.
That was giving big Midwest quarterback energy, like a guy who is just like totally used to beating the bullies. And like I don't know, it was like it was like a jock, but it wasn't arrogance, right? Like like Superman has like a bit of a, you know, cock factor to him, I guess, but it's never like, it's never overblown. Like he's still got a good head on his shoulders, but something like that, it's just kind of fun. He's got a confidence. That's what I'm looking for. It's not like a you know, like a cockiness. It's a confidence. And I think being Superman gives him that confidence. I mean, that's stuff that we saw in the Christopher Reeve portrayal and stuff like that. And so it's cool to see David Corenswet switch between those two things, like switch between being this mild-mannered, earnest Clark Kent who's like making Walter Cronkite jokes to then being like confident Superman and such. And like even the way he changes his voice, I thought was I mean, it's some of the best dual acting as Superman and Clark Kent that I think we've ever seen since, I mean, Christopher Reeve. I mean, it's truly impressive. I think that was, out of all of this, like out of all the superhero madness, the fighting, the kaijus, the you know, the Lois stuff, the Lex stuff, the government stuff, the whatever, David Corenswet as Superman is just tremendous. Like he is this character. He's able to exude confidence without turning it into arrogance. He's able to be an old soul, be kind of nerdy without drawing too much attention to it. Like it's just like small lines that in there that James Gunn just weaves perfectly that helps you understand like who this guy is. And like he is a dweeb, he is an old soul, he's like got an outdated sense of the world, and I think Corenswet just leans into that so perfectly, at least in this trailer. And I have to imagine in the finished film, there's so much like pain in his face when people are rejecting him. Yet at the same time, like I think like it's not gonna stop him. Like he is still this embodiment of hope and optimism. And like that's Superman, dude. Like that is what we need. We need a hero like this to just combat people who have kind of given up on empathy, who have just kind of thrown morality out the window. It's sad that that's become commonplace now, that we're willing to just side with people regardless of what, you know, moral failings they've had. And I get it, like people fuck up all the time, but like maybe we should do better. Like we deserve better. And I think Superman is here to remind us of that, of the need to be better. It's this optimistic message, I think, that we just desperately need right now. And then, especially from comic book films, with the genre being around as long as it has, and especially with like all the stuff with Marvel, you know, being very like military coded, their relationship with the government and whatnot. Like we're not used to heroes being heroes. We're used to them being instruments of the government. And so I think that having a hero like this to kind of like reset the status quo, to kind of get us back on board with loving superheroes again. I guess the other couple things that I'm loving in here, the Clark and Lois relationship is flawless. It's like flirtatious and yet it's sincere. I mean, I would talk about sincere, him with the fucking dog on his bed. Like this guy, it's just Clark, you pure soul. Like, God, I love you, but he's also just, he loves Lois. And I think it's cool that Lois already knows his identity and they're able to do this kind of like interview scene. I don't know, that's interesting. I mean, he's being pressed by the person that he cares about the most in the world. And, you know, I'm sure that causes him to question whether or not he's really making the right decision sometimes, even though he adheres to his morals. But, yeah, and then again, like him getting defensive. I mean, it's like, it's a young Superman and we desperately need that just like hopeless optimism, I think. I don't know. I've rambled on here long enough and probably gone off the rails, but I just, I'm loving everything I'm getting from this trailer. It's pure, it's hopeful. There's some incredible moments in here that I think are going to build and lead to incredible moments in the film. Like, you know, I could nitpick the look of the overall film. I think by and large it's good, but I'm gonna reserve judgment until I see the film, because I mean, that one, that's what I do, but two, like I do think that there is, you know, we're not getting the full effect because we're not seeing it in its entirety. I think when we get the full effect, it's gonna work a lot better, and specifically those like POV kind of locked on shots where there's this insanely large world around the characters with this intense focus on the person in front of you. Like, I love that creative choice that James Gunn has adopted. I think it works. But anyways, what do you guys think about the Superman trailer? Comment down in the comment section below. And yeah, I don't know. It's fun doing these little off the cuff videos. I'm still gonna keep doing them. I think when something comes up that I have something to say about, I'm gonna keep doing them. Yeah, dude. Superman, I'm fucking ready. Let's go.